Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HR Roundtable. How we are using AI in HR. It is such a pleasure to see everybody today, and I want to thank the three wonderful colleagues, HR professionals, who have volunteered to kind of talk with the group about how they're using AI within their organizations. Please feel free to come off of mute, put your questions in chat. We're going to have three different topics that we're going to talk about. Emily's going to talk with us about how she's using AI in day-to-day in HR. Then Kendall's going to talk with us about using AI related to resumes. And then Cora Lynn is going to talk with us about how she's been able to build some amazing apps, all having no coding experience at all, but have been really beneficial in the work that she does. So let me turn it over to Emily and we'll go ahead and get started.
Hey, hello. I'm Emily. I'm a HR manager at a small retailer in Minnesota. So if anyone's around Minnesota, we're in Eagan. Come shop. But we're women owned, and our big emphasis is sustainable apparel. So everything is made out of recycled fabrics. We're a B corporation, and do a lot of give back, like 1% for the planet, and have really strong initiatives. We also run on EOS, and EOS is a very structured type of system that helps small businesses break through some ceilings. We're currently at 41 employees, and HR department of one, I was looking for some ways to create some efficiencies in my day and help me be able to really just make sure that I'm doing all aspects of HR that I need to, but almost like with a little assistant on the side, which is kind of fun. And our company adopted Claude, and we all adopted it. I would say quarter 1 is when we started rolling it out to our leadership team, and we're starting to go piece by piece with all of our departments. But was one of the early adopters, which is really fun, and I got to be a part of a lot and learn a lot. So just wanted to share how I use it in my day to day, so you all can see how AI can help you day in and day out. And I'll share one little, um, I guess, document that it populated for me too, just to see how much easier that can make your life as well. So a big things I do day to day with it is we have it connected to our emails, and then we have it connected to calendars and things like that. And so I'll simply prompt Claude and say, so for example, I was out of the office all last week. I got to take a nice week-long vacation to the cabin, and I knew I was coming into a lot of work to do on Monday. And so I asked Claude Monday morning right away, said, pull all my emails from the last week, bulletize any to-do lists, and then make sure you emphasize the ones that I flagged, because I went through and flagged ones that I thought were important. I got a beautifully clean to-do list that I was able to, again, correct here and there, but just made my life easier rather than having to scroll through each and every email. And then I was able to pull up the ones that Claude flagged as important. Really just made it a lot better, a lot more simple. So to-do list stuff is really important. Little things like sending out birthdays and anniversary shout outs to the team. I'm responsible for those. Sometimes it totally would just I would miss it for the day. So every morning it auto sets and auto populates this little dashboard that says, here's all the people that are out of office, here's all the people that have birthdays, here's all the anniversaries for today. So it makes my life 10 times easier. I'm not having to go into two different platforms to look and find these. It's just in my face, and I can send my quick shout outs right away in the morning. Um,
Emily, quick question for you. So in
yeah,
order to do that, what did you provide to, what is Claude pulling from to get that information?
yeah, it's pulling from, we have on our company calendar. We have all of the birthdays and anniversaries so everyone can see them. So it pulls from there. And then it doesn't connect with our HRIS system, which is the other spot I really am hopeful that it gets a connector to soon. But right now it's just off of that calendar.
Perfect.
Yep, good
Thanks.
question. Um, Analyzing data. So I send out a employee net promoter score survey and love the survey. A lot of responses, which is awesome. A lot of comments too. And so for me to be able to just throw the data in there, say calculate the ENPS, I don't have to do the manual math, and analyze the themes. What themes can I bring to leadership, and what recommendations to make some changes? I used to do that before on my own, and it's great, I could, but the time that it took, it's just so like I have a little assistant that's doing it for me right now. I always go and double check the work of Claude, but I'm training it to get better and more efficient with me. So that's really helpful too. One thing that I've loved and it's probably been the most impactful, I'm hiring for a lot of roles that I have never done. I'm not a marketing specialist. I haven't done that before. I'm not an apparel designer, haven't done that before. And there's a lot of lingo and things that come up in resumes and our job descriptions that I just don't know what it is. And the amount of time it would take me to Google it all and think through and ask the people on our teams of what does this mean? Does this resume look good? Rather, I'll put the job description into Claude, I'll put in the resume and say, what matches this person? Are they worth a phone screen? And it'll tell me yes or no. It'll give me a percentage of, yep, good here, or hey, it looks like they're missing a chunk here. They might be still be good to interview, but ask them questions about this in your phone screen to make sure. It's been a game changer, and that's been a more recent use of mine for it because as we're hiring these roles that I just personally don't have a lot of experience with, my first time hiring for them here, actually, it's just saved so much time and accuracy too. I feel like I'm actually getting good candidates in front of our hiring managers now, which is really helpful. Um, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything I wrote down on how I'm using it day to day. Um, my next step with it is I have a company handbook that I created over a year ago now, and it hasn't gotten a nice refresh since then. I see some smiles and nods. So I'm going to send my handbook through Claude. We have also started hiring remote employees, which we hadn't done when I first created it. So we have some policies that have been updated since we have remote employees, but haven't necessarily put it in the handbook directly. So I'm going to have it flag a bunch of things that I need to update and all of that. So that's my next project. I have a feeling it'll be a big one, but I'm really excited to see how Claude can help me with that. The last thing I do want to share my screen and show is we running on EOS, we call them seats, like a position, a job, it's called a seat. And we are looking for a project manager seat. And the first place we want to look is there anyone internally that could fill a seat like this, that could help us out in different ways? And we know how people can do in their day-to-day jobs, but for every employee, we have a Strengths Finder, a Gallup Strengths Finder. If you don't do those, I highly recommend. They're awesome. And then we do a preview assessment when everyone first gets hired or is a candidate for us. And we do a working genius assessment as well. See how people click, where things kind of work. And we've used a lot of these that in different ways, like team building and team bonding and things like that. But I was like, okay, we have all of this. How can I have Claude help me figure out who could maybe be a fit for this seat? So we built this project manager job description. I so we use Box. Is anyone familiar with Box? It's where it stores all your files as a company. It's kind of like Google Drive, but like mega. And I had it pull, I have folders in Box with all these assessments for our employees. I had it go into Box, which we can connect to, told it what assessments to pull across all employees. And here's the job description of a project manager that we're looking to fulfill. And I asked Claude to, out of all our employees, who would best fit this? And I'm going to share what it popped up for me. And now it's kind of nice too because this was done a while ago. Here, let's see if this works. Can you guys see the screen? Project Manager Fit. Okay. Our branding has gotten way better with Claude too. You can feed it your brand and make it beautiful. So this isn't as pretty as they could be nowadays, which helps a lot just with documents. But essentially, what it did was took all of the data that I had and what it thought a project manager role would need based off of our preview, our strengths finder, and then working genius for those that had it. So it took what it was assuming the role would need, and then I did white out the names just for some privacy, but it gave me a top 5 candidates and what their strengths were, why this is an advantage, and then any limits that they saw with this person becoming a project manager. So out of all 41 employees, it pulled me a top 5 and it was able to tell me why it might not work, but why it really would work too. It then went into the candidate profiles, broke down why with their preview scores, the strengths finder, what's going to be the like true secret weapons or why this person is going to be great at it, and then a little bit more of, it might be a little bit difficult here because of X, Y, and Z. So it was really fascinating to see with these people because some of them came top of mind, but a few of them didn't actually. And so we were really intrigued to see that from a unbiased, because when you work with employees, you always have your own perspective of how they do in certain things or with certain tasks, just as you know how they do in their daily job. So to have an unbiased third party just analyze who they are as a person and be be able to help kind of give some guidance as to who could be great in this seat. And we're actually pursuing it with one of these individuals. So that's a really exciting thing, and I'm excited to see how that comes to fruition. But just super simple to the point. This was a great thing I was able to give our executive team and just really help us all find someone in our team. And it's a promotion for them. So it's also an exciting way to kind of elevate our team as well. I think that's all.
Great. Thank you, Emily. So interesting questions and comments in the chat. Sandeep, do you want to talk, or Rachel, either one, do you want to talk more about the enterprise and team licenses versus having an individual and the confidentiality that you get having that closed network?
And maybe Emily can tell us, are you using the enterprise license or the team? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we
So
have a paid version.
when I was looking for options, and I have a team of only 3 people, um, you need minimum 5 on the team. You
Mm.
cannot get a team license for less than 5, and then the enterprise license. And those allow incredible confidentiality. In fact, for enterprise, your lawyer can negotiate with their lawyer like a, binding agreement. So Rachel may be able to speak more on it. We ended up opting for Claude. We actually use all the systems, but for Claude, we just have to be very careful because we worked with a Harvard psychologist who actually said you shouldn't even use your real work email for working with Claude. We have separate computers we use. We use a proxy email that connects to that. I use Wi-Fi, but most people will actually directly plug in.
Mhm.
Claude is incredible, but also notorious for pulling data from every single system connected. Like the very next day, we got a prompt saying, would you allow us to connect to all the devices on your Wi-Fi? I'm like, no, that's why we got special computers. So anyway, I'm curious what if Rachel has a different idea about confidentiality, but we have not been able to. We use Claude because it's exceptional, but we have to strip every confidential information before we use it.
So I agree. And hi, Sandeep. Good to see you. I agree. I think that one of the things that we do have to talk about and think about, particularly for HR professionals, is the difference between truly confidential information and private information and like company information. A lot of times people are confusing those things and they're saying, oh, we're building something that's going to be unique for our organization. And we don't, want to feed this system, which is completely understandable. But the reality, the methodologies that you're using are not your own methodologies anyway. Often they're coming from a McKinsey, or they're coming from built off of something from Corn Ferry, or they're built off of, a big philosophy and methodology you may customize and all of that. And a lot of the research shows that they're not looking, the private information that you're really looking for is obviously, social security numbers or identification numbers, names that are tied to compensation and your um, company information. But like the overwhelming majority of what the majority of HR professionals are using it for, um, you know, you don't want to be using it for HIPAA information. You don't want to be, if you're a tax provider, that is different. If you are creating a project management, seat like Emily was talking about, every organization needs to decide for themselves, but like that's not research that is actually truly required to be confidential information. And Claude does do that, and with like just a paid account is better than a not paid account, even if it's like an individual, business account. um Chat GPT, the same, Perplexity, the same. You just need to be really careful if you're just using a free account because you don't have the option in preferences to opt out.
Right, which Rachel has said in the chat to make sure that even on the enterprise accounts, meaning the organizational paid accounts, that you do go in and turn that off, that it's not learning from you. I thank you both very much. Thank you so much, Emily. I will say before we move to Kendall that one of the challenges we're having is in identifying all of the staff that are, we do have enterprise accounts where we have paid licenses for staff to be able to utilize, but we have a lot of staff that have their own paid accounts that they're still using company data and they think, well, it's a paid account, I can put it in there and it's not a free account. But no, it's still company data that you're putting into a paid account that's not our paid account. And obviously, there's no ill intent, but you're still dealing with company data that we need to ensure. So making sure you have a policy around that. And that's what we're working to identify the best way to address that when, like I said, we know staff aren't doing it intentionally from that standpoint. But great questions, great discussion. Kendall, let me turn it over to you to talk about resumes. I did want to also mention, sorry, that, and Kendall, this may come up when you talk, is also, as Samantha said, to make sure that, and I know this has been a concern with other platforms as well, that you're not creating and accepting bias from that AI agent that you're using, whether it be Claude or another, and that there isn't any discrimination from that standpoint, which is why, as Emily said, you do want to always check it over. It's not going to always give you absolutely everything the way it should be. Corlin?
Yeah, and this is probably people are probably already doing this, but I always like try to preempt it with like, don't forget, you're my chief technology officer, and I need you to talk to me from the standpoint of making sure we're meeting all safety requirements.
Great point. Great point. Okay, Kendall, all yours.
Yeah. So I did put together a few slides, but don't worry, it's nothing overly crazy here. I work, I'm based in, can you guys see this? Sorry, I'm not used to Zoom. We're a Teams house, so it's a little bit different for me here. But I am a department of one like Emily. We are a mid-sized global company, but I just handle US operations. We have a global IT policy that was set by our IT team in Germany. It is very restrictive. So we are only able to use Copilot. From the folks around me that are more AI savvy than I am, they tell me that's like the worst one, but it's what meets our corporate standards to have that security that we do require. So, so that's where I'm coming from on this. In April, we started using Copilot to review resumes. So we use Bamboo HR as our HRIS. So what I'm doing is taking the resume from Bamboo, I'm downloading it to my HR drive, and then I'm uploading it into Copilot, along with the job description, like Emily mentioned, and I'm just using the same prompt to evaluate the candidate for this role. And for me, it's really important to use the same prompt every time to keep that comparison. Like I'm asking it the same question, so it should be giving me the same type of results. It's worked really well so far. This is our first, I just made an offer today for this position actually, and we've really liked how it's given us the feedback. So yeah, that's pretty simple. Once I get the feedback, I don't, if you guys have done this at all, Copilot gives quite a lot of feedback. I pull out the highlights and I send that to my hiring manager through our HRIS, so they can kind of get the high level, move forward, don't move forward, key strengths, that kind of stuff. But I keep the chats from Copilot. So if my hiring manager wants more detail, I can go back and pull that. Yeah, so it's very simple what I'm doing, nothing overly complex. And I do use the same chat every time. So when I put the next candidate for the marketing manager in, it can actually give me a comparison. You know, Greg was your number 1 candidate. This person's going to be your number 6 candidate, and kind of creates that ranking because I'm doing it all in the same space. So I kind of already mentioned this stuff. We're going to use the same prompts every time in the same chat. One thing that we were really excited about and didn't actually end up working, we weren't able to share the chat or the agent between myself and my hiring manager. So I had to, that's why everything is in the HRIS versus just sharing an agent and saying, hey, well, I put Greg's stuff in there, go check it out. And I prefer the chat because it's a little bit more flexible than the agent, in my opinion. So,
Kendall, Karina has a question.
yes.
Yeah, my organization, we're just approved to use Copilot as well. And I was wondering if anybody found the way, like for resumes. So say you had like 5 candidates. And besides doing it one by one, have anybody found a way to like add all 5 resumes at one time and then put your prompt questions? Or have you tried that and did the results not come out that well? Or why do you do it one by one?
I did it that way for one position. I didn't love it because I felt like I wanted to see how the candidates stood on their own, and then I want the comparison between them. And when I uploaded everything together, it just gave me a ranking of here's your 1, 2, 3 candidates. But I want to know, how does Greg stack up? How does Bob stack up? How does Sue stack up against our job description, not against each other? So that was what the problem was for me when I did it as a group.
Okay. Was just wondering why you did it one by one. Thanks for that.
And we don't have a ton of candidates. I should add that in. I think one of the postings that have like 13 candidates. So it's not a huge time suck to do a quick download, upload for me. So
Thank
Rachel?
you.
Karina, well, I guess this is actually for both of you. You also can, if you work on your prompt, you can ask it specifically, Kendall. First, I want, a full comparison of each candidate against the job description. Then I want a ranking. If you download that, depending on your ATS and everything else, if you download them as a PDF batch, you can upload them as a PDF batch and just save yourself a couple of steps. I have one client who also using Copilot. This is a little more advanced, but it's not hard. They have no more skills than you or me. It just took them a little bit of time and they used Copilot to teach them how to do this. But Copilot now, they have it tied to their ATS, and Copilot pulls down the candidates for them in a batch and then does it. Um, it took about 5 hours of programming it with Copilot and Power Automate. It's really, really not hard to do, especially when you tell Copilot from the beginning, this is my first time ever doing anything like this. Talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, walk it through step by step. Do not give me more than one step at a time because I might have questions. Like really, you tell it what to do. It takes a couple of hours to do it. They have said that over the last 3 months since they did it, that they have probably saved, close to 50 hours of just stupid admin, copy down, move over, all the things that you're kind of talking about right now. And I can just tell you, while I did not do that one personally, it kind of inspired me to use Copilot to create something that I needed it to create, following those same talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And it works. I was so proud of myself. You have no idea. But like, this is not hard. We can all do this if you're willing to take the time. It's pretty cool.
yeah, I would just, again, like the confidentiality we were talking about, make sure your IT team is on board with that because I know my global team in Germany would have a fit if I did that. So just double check with all your teams. So yeah, that's it for my presentation, guys. Like I said, I put slides up, but it wasn't much. So
Thank you very much, Kendall. A lot of great points. Prompting is everything, and how you talk to the AI and thinking about different ways to do that is unbelievably important. And as Cora Lynn has shown us during a lot of our weekly roundtables, when she has been able to pretty much program what she's needed, but in the way that she's been able to do it. I'm just going to turn it over to her and let her talk a little bit more about what she's been able to build with AI, having absolutely no coding experience at all.
So this is super embarrassing. I was just about to show you the one thing that I've been spending like all my nights and days on, and it's not up. Like I've got so many windows on because I wanted to show you all like what all of the different ones that I'm working on. Um, but the one that's taken the most time. So, um, let me, sorry, I hate to do this, you guys. Can you like talk amongst yourselves for like 2 minutes and let me like get it back up? I had it all organized. Now.
Absolutely,
Close
absolutely.
the window.
Um,
Mhm.
so I do have a question for everybody. Sandeep, go ahead.
I was just gonna add a comment to the wonderful, encouraging stuff that Rachel shared and then Kendall shared. One of the things that, as a tip, works, depending on, like, doesn't matter where you are in your journey, after you've spent 5 hours or 50 days or, a year, you can actually go back to the chat and ask your chat, whatever you're using, Copilot or what have you, to say, based on everything in this chat, now create a comprehensive prompt that will do everything that we have agreed on and landed on, and walk me through step by step what that would be. So instead of you having to create the perfect prompt, you actually ask your AI to tell you to create that prompt, which was the journey that got you to the ideal outcome. So it really helps. I actually keep prompt directory based on things that we have mastered now. We're like almost happy. This is like as good as it gets. So now we have a system which the respective AI created. So just comprehensive prompt asking your AI to create it for you.
I love that. That was actually going to be my question. How do you guys, what are the best way to do prompts? How do you come up with them? I mean, I love asking the AI to come up with it based on what you're doing. Anybody have any tips on how they do prompts? I've absolutely heard the same thing. I know staff that have a list. Here are all the prompts that I use so that you can go back to get the same. But from what I understand, and we even had our staff do a prompt training, it is absolutely about being as specific as you can be with what it is you need. Does anybody have any feedback, thoughts on prompts? What's helped them?
That's actually one of the things I want to copy and paste for you guys in the chat because I'm spending most of my days trying to figure out how to not use so many tokens. And if you have good prompting, that would be one of the ways. So let me actually, this is an acronym that, oh no, hold on, let me cut it in half. It's called chat. So my friend, he teaches AI classes here, and so like the C is for context, H is he calls it hat or height or length, right? And then audience and tone. And so this will get you to what you're looking for more succinctly instead of having AI keep going back and forth and then you're like, oh, but then find and then but then tell me this, but then tell me this, right? So that is a huge part of like I'm trying to figure out token maximization all over the place and that's kind of why I don't have I have several things in the works and I'm still experimenting with a bunch of different sites to figure out like I've tried Replit, Lovable. Base 44 seems like it's not going to be a good idea for me, but like if you want something really aesthetically pleasing to build like a website or like my friend she built an interactive like let's do market analysis. Like say you have a business idea, she built a an app for you to be able to do a full marketing analysis. And then I last night I tried Vercel because I wanted to do something more specific to HR. Because so for all of you who don't know, I don't actually practice HR. I'm a benefits person, but I need HR. I need to understand HR to make sure that we get our benefits right, right? Um, so two things I'll show you is what I've been spending most of my stuff on. This is going to be most of my stuff on most of my days money and time on. And this is going to be something like I truly want to monetize. And I've been doing like I've been interviewing my customer segmentation to validate it. So like this is truly something a bigger project. And then with some of the other things I'll show you is I'm trying to figure out if it's possible to do and how do we do it securely. And then it also gives me an opportunity to check out the graphics for that particular builder. Um, but the current environment, it feels like a whack-a-mole. Like I feel like you're always running from Claude. I use Claude, I use ChatGPT. Um, but I always feel like, one day, somebody's misbehaving, but then another day, like Claude, being like the shiny, but we're good. Like Claude's taking a lot of the proprietary programs that people are building and just like creating it themselves too. So you could also create an app through them. So, um, so anyways, I exploring like all these different open weight models to try to keep things more proprietary as you're building. That is also like a whack-a-mole kind of situation where I don't know how to reconcile it yet because the way I see it, they're always going to win, right? Like you can't they're always going to be ahead and it's like, okay, so how do we ensure that there's competition on the market, right? So that's why um I've totally sacrificed my not morals, but like I've always kind of been somebody that I try my best to try to patronize those that do good in the world or not, or don't do as much damage or whatever, and I feel like it's a futile effort sometimes, but when it comes to developing, like we're in the space in AI, I just feel like we're all like everybody's just kind of jumping in and everyone's okay. Anyways, I'll get off that high horse and show you what I've been doing from so imagine yourself, you are going into a renewal meeting with your broker, right? And so to kind of give you some background on how um how not fun these things are, how much preparation it requires. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Um, sorry. Okay. So the first thing that comes in is we get this huge Kaiser renewal, and it has like these rate tables that we actually literally have to manually type in, right? And we all know at this point that that's kind of just ridiculous. And then we type it into a really huge Excel spreadsheet like this. And this is all like somebody manually types this in, you do it, and this is all dummy information. I just created a dummy workbook for all of this, but it's really extensive. And then those presentations that you sit through with your broker, um, they've fed that to PowerPoint. And so this is like usually like a 2 week process. Like for a large group, this is usually a 2 week process. So I wanted to create a different experience. And so where I'm eventually getting to my point where I'm trying to tie this in for all of you is um, you can make a dashboard instead of like having all of these really long PowerPoint presentations. Um, I've created a dashboard. So I've fed that Excel sheet right into I've tried Claude, I've tried Replit, and now I'm going to try Vercel. Wasn't too happy with it, but Replit did not. Replit does some things really well, but it doesn't really do it to like it couldn't change my dollar amounts and percentage increases to a state where uh, it was presentable. So instead of having sitting through a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to just bring you through a dashboard, and I'm encouraging people to interact, right? So you can react, you can make notes, you can send notes to each other. And because what this is doing in the back end is informing, so here's the admin view. So that's informing the person who created it, like where is the most engagement. So That way, I, as a broker, will have an idea of like, okay, what's the sentiment? How are you guys feeling about this or that? And then, so I, yeah, I'm just basically trying to change the experience that all of you have. Um, and then, so let's say that you choose the plans that you want, right? So then you can select it in here. You can also, I'm going to make it so you could drill down into like who's enrolled and all that. But um, in making all of these, I'm trying to stay away from violating any HIPAA security concerns, right? So every time I code something, I always say, please ensure that I'm in compliance with HIPAA security guidelines. Um, this is one of the reasons why I thought originally like I would try to create a benefits enrollment platform, but to try to get the kind of security you need is anywhere from like 50,000, no less than $50,000, right? So I'm just going to leverage whatever is out there instead of trying to do that on my own. So, yeah, I think I was like seeing stuff like $150,000 to do that. So let's say that you choose this Kaiser HMO and the dental plan and all of that. And so it's time stamped by the plan administrator, and then it informs the broker, and then that starts the process of getting your benefits guide going. So, you know how your benefits guide oftentimes is this like really huge booklet that people only read like 2 pages of it because you all you really care about is like, okay, has anything changed and how much is it going to cost me, right? Um so I basically put all those different pages into a dashboard instead. And I'm making it so it could ask AI questions on, like, for instance, like, I'm going to have surgery, I'm going to this doctor. Why should I get a high deductible health plan instead of a copay plan, right? And um, so that will then inform the employer, like, okay, where are people engaging and how are they feeling and everything. So the goal is to not just like hand them, like this generic thing that you get every year, but to actually encourage engagement to make them feel like they're being heard, right? Like somebody's considering what they're saying. So okay, so that is and then also you could house your plan docs here. The goal, which nobody in our industry has been able to crack yet, has been how can we get the SBCs and SOBs just, like have an API integration, and you can't. So you literally have to always go to the carrier's website and download it. So uh, I'll hopefully try to find a fix for that. This also because I know that, so HR people have been telling me and some brokers that they need a PDF or a PowerPoint or not PDF, but an actual printed version. So this can be exported to PDF. I was so I did have to manually, that's not it. I did have to manually try to, I'll show it to you later, but manipulate the PowerPoint slides because when I did export to PowerPoint, it was kind of all wonky on the formatting. But so bringing it back to HR, if there's something that you normally like, I don't know if you can put an employee handbook in a dashboard format, but maybe that might be easier for employees to go through. It also would inform you as the HR, department of like, this is where employees are engaging with the most, right? So just something to consider, all the different ways in what you do for how it, maybe switch the dashboard format. Um, Now, a couple other things that food for thought is that okay, so this is our SHRM chapter, Sacramento Area Human Resources Association. And we are not happy with this really old website, right? Like this is pretty much like how everyone rolls. So if you're looking to refresh, let's say you work with a nonprofit, Or maybe you want to do an internal site. I did this in Lovable. So you can see here, this was the old and this is the refresh, right? Um, it'll give you a, like just a true wireframe, just like one landing page, like in 5 minutes. But then you want to, like I made a few things functional. Like I made the become a member part functional, just to show that this is how what you do. You just ask it to tie it into the old site, or to mirror the old site for the membership part. And then the events calendar, I wanted that to be functional for just for the MVP, the minimum viable product, or actually just more like the, not an MVP, but kind of just when we talk to the board, this is, something we could show them. And I updated the legislative part too. So, like here. So I have it scraping all these different regulatory agencies. And then I asked for it to not show any articles older than 1 year. So that way we can go to this and, if we only want to see the things from the labor commissioner, we could do that. So, just food for thought if you're part of a nonprofit or you think that you would want to create like an internal microsite. This is the way Lovable turns out. I spent like about $25 doing this, but I'm probably, I would say like $55 to get it started. Um, and then I know somebody who has a nonprofit and he did his like over a span of a few weeks and like $800. So it can get, that's actually not that bad. So, but let's see, what else did I want to show you? Oh, so last night I was working on leave management because I saw that I missed yesterday. I think it was last week that you guys were talking about leave management. So I want to try Vercel. Um, and see how Vercel does versus Lovable or Replit. And I don't know if everybody knows like all these company names I'm throwing out, like Vercel, Lovable, all of that. What so the builders, like let's say you want to go vibe code, you'll probably hear about Replit's really popular, Base 44, Lovable, um, uh, Vercel, I think N8N. Um, there, gosh, there's so many more. Um, but those are what we actually build in. So the process, though, you'd want to use like your least expensive tool to plan. So like ChatGPT, I think is cheaper right now than Claude. Claude keeps asking me for more and more money, and it's driving me nuts. So I've been bringing my business over to Chat lately. And so you could have your planning session with Chat and say, I need you to be my project manager. Like you want to give Chat a persona in being your partner in your build, right? And then you want to make sure that you say, okay, I want to do this the most securely in compliance with HIPAA guidelines, and I want it to utilize the least amount of tokens. And you do all of your planning in there and say, eventually I want to put all of this in, I want to host this in Vercel, for instance. So um so then after you feel like you've gotten your MVP, then you can bring all the code over into Vercel and then launch it from there and do some more fixes in there. But one of the things you want to make sure you do is always have a repository. So GitHub is a repository I use. It's free from Microsoft because they want everybody to use it, first of all. But think of it as like you do all your work in Claude or ChatGPT and you do all of your planning, you get all of your code, you put in a repository with GitHub, and from GitHub, you can go to all the different planning sites. So like you can go to Replit and all of the ones that I mentioned Vercel. So that way, when one of them pisses you off, you still have all of the code left and you can bring it to a different site and do it from there. So um, I did not published this yet, but this is kind of, I just wanted to see what it looked like because one of the things I want to do with this is like, here's some things that I'm asking Claude to do is, um, I want it to put in jurisdiction logic because I didn't feel like I had enough logic in there to ensure that it was scraping um, the right rules, right? So like seed and maintain, this is really like if you're going to do anything with compliance laws, leave 1099 versus W-2, like all of those things, you always want to seed and maintain specific laws. And then also like these source requirements so that it's syncing up. And but one of the things that they did, like I didn't catch earlier, it was like, no, you don't want it always updating because if somebody's out on leave, like this could potentially, it could potentially affect how their leave is reflecting in your system if like laws are changing as they're on leave. So you don't want it just changing willy-nilly. Okay, so this is what's cool is I didn't have to do any of this. I just had to ask chat, hey, how do I make sure all of these components are in there? And then eventually it gave me all of this. And then I would click copy and then I would paste it into Vercel and I would run it. I would run it right now, but it would end up taking like I probably wouldn't even be able to show you anything because I think it would take up a lot of usage on my computer. But so for a leave management tool, this is kind of something that if you wanted to do this really internally and not have to worry about security, because this is just truly something that you want for yourself, this is something that you could probably create like within an hour. Um, and um, and then you can let's just say, can you guys see this or okay,
Yes.
okay. Um, so let's just say we'll say pregnancy. We'll say why. And again, this is like super, 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 super basic. I don't know. We'll just say, I'm just gonna make I guess, yeah, we'll just do this. And then so and this is actually what you want to, what I created here is for you to be able to upload. So like in this little icon up here, so you can upload what your parameters are because you might have benefits that are more generous than what's required by law. And so this is like where you could set them and have it apply. So that's just a little something if you needed to the other reason why I also wanted to create it is because so Paylocity just bought a leave management tool. So what that signals to me is that the human capital management companies they really are looking for this is an issue for employers that they're willing to purchase a company that's some software that's doing it and pay a lot of money for it. So I my thing is I don't want you to have to pay a lot of money for these things. So that I think is everything that I kind of wanted to just give you a snapshot of.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing, all the things you can do, and apparently all the time, obviously, that you've spent in pulling all of that together. I do know, as you had said, and I've seen that more recently in talking with others on the roundtable, that uh, a lot of the HRIS and or payroll systems do have more AI tools now built in to be able to provide that support. But like you said, you're paying for that. And I do know that especially I think something like that would be really beneficial for someone having to do multi-state paid leave. And just like you were showing us, and how do you compare that over the states? All the different things that come up. But as we talked about before, I think the biggest thing is ensuring that you're prompting everything correctly and then to just keep asking it questions. Thank you so much, Corlin. Any other comments or questions that people have? I know we could probably talk about different things. Corlin, Sandeep did ask which AI solution do you recommend for those interactive dashboards? And you said Claude so far.
Yeah, so the my most favorite MVP has been generated by Claude. But Claude, somebody just told me they came out with artifacts. I tell you, it's like whack-a-mole. It's not even it's so difficult to keep up. But so Claude and ChatGPT, they can help you create, but they're not supposed to be able to help you. They're not supposed to be able to host, right? Like either you do it in one of those builder apps like Replit, or to scale it, you've got to go to like AWS, like something really huge. Um, so aesthetically, I feel like Claude has put out the best stuff. But I'm still searching for a different tool. But I did want to also just remind people, so think of like you want to use either Claude or ChatGPT as like your coworker, your project manager, and the different personas, and then you use the other one to do your quality control. So like somebody described to me like after like and you don't even have to use those. Like if you're building inside Replit, you could do all of your planning. Make sure it's on plan mode. Oh, that's the other thing. Make sure that you before you do anything, go to the window. Let me so like the your oh, don't ask again. Let me sorry. I'm really scattered. I know. Sorry guys. But like your your window here, right? Like where you put in all your content and you check to see which version is being run. Because like Claude, for instance, they might put you on like the second to most expensive version. So also in here, you want to set your thing. You also would want to prompt it and say, please ensure you're using the most, oh, I wasn't even sharing. Sorry, guys. So in here, you want to make sure that you not just prompt ChatGPT to use like, use like low effort or whatever. Um, oop, yeah. Same thing with Vercel. In these windows for these building apps, make sure you go down here and choose because they will automatically put you on like the more expensive or the most expensive option. So, um, like you want as you're discussing with it, because you don't have to discuss any of this with Claude or ChatGPT. For me, sometimes it's just I think it's cheaper, but it's starting to not get cheaper. So like if I want to just plan with Lovable, you put it on plan before you start building. So something to think through.
Corlin, if you're using a lower paid version, is it just simply doesn't have as many tools, or is it not pulling? What's the difference?
The processing is going to be slower. I it can so like it definitely can not create something as robust. So for instance, with Vercel last night, I used the lowest one. It just wasn't going anywhere. It's just you would get this, it would stop, and then uh, it essentially once I moved it up even one level, but it was like $3 per token, and that's the fun thing. We don't even really know what $3 per token is, right? Um, it suddenly started like really working. So it's gonna scrape more information out there if you get the better versions. So
Makes sense. I think, like everything else, unfortunately, AI is going to become more expensive. And just in what you were showing, the different versions and the ability to be able to do more with it. I mean, I even noticed we have a few Claude licenses as we still have not decided, and it will probably end up being Copilot just because we are a Microsoft Office. But in what I've seen on Claude, it would always run, we'd be running out towards the end of the week
Mhm.
of I guess our tokens as to what we had from that perspective. And thank you for the definition of tokens, Sandeep, in the chat. For those of us that are not as, I mean, I know some of AI, but nowhere near listening to you guys talk. I'm like, okay, I know nothing. But this has been so helpful. Thank you all so much. I certainly do appreciate it. I hope it's been helpful for others. We'll certainly also, if we want to have another session to talk about other things that we're doing, we can absolutely do that. But thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Emily, Kendall, and Corlin for presenting. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and continue trying stuff. It's what it's out there to do, and keep asking the questions. Thank you all again. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.